Recording. All right. So, hey, everybody, welcome to a little one-off thing that I thought was really important that we could share with our rural language teachers. Patrick Wallace is with us to talk to us all about the partner grant that just came out and has kind of a quick turnaround. So I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, thanks very much, Shannon. Thank you all the time. I always am thankful that you've created this group and that this group meets. I think it's really super important for us to be connected. And I know how it is to be in a small town in a rural setting and be a world language teacher. Probably in many cases, you are the only world language teacher in that system. So this is really a group for you. So that's really wonderful. And I have great news, which is we have a grant just for you too. And I super want to encourage you to apply because I really feel like this is money that is there for you. I would say that last year, and this is just so you know, last year we had many thousands of dollars available, and a lot of that was left on the table because we didn't have teachers that applied. So my hope is always to try to reach out to the rural community teachers wherever they are and encourage them to apply. And that's really why I'm here today. So to really summarize this grant, just to give you a little background, and then I think what I'd like to do is just take control and show you a little bit about the grant itself. But this comes from the American Recovery Program. It's otherwise known as ARP funds. These are funds that were distributed to the states following COVID to recover from COVID. And those funds are to go to the state, and then from the governor's office, they get distributed to the different agencies. And of course, the Department of Education is one of those agencies to which the funds were distributed. These funds are there for the next 3 years. So this grant is really the second cycle we've had the partner grant that comes from these funds. So it will run again next year as well, which is also good. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and take you on a little journey. We'll go on a little journey together, and I hope that this will encourage you to really to apply. And I'm going to try to make it very easy. So the first thing is to find the grant. We call them the proposal, the request for proposals for the grant. You simply have to go to our homepage for World Languages in Georgia. And it's in our world language URLs are long. So I always just say, go to Google and type in Georgia Department of Education, World Languages. If you do that, the first thing that'll pop up will be our page. So you'll just click there. It's not the first thing, it's normally in the beginning. And you know you're on the homepage when you scroll down and you see the actual information about the grants right here. But if you we have several pages. We have the Seal of Biliteracy page, professional development page. We have a seal for international skills. So we have dual language immersion. So these are seals that we run, or basically seals that pages I operate. So you just want to make sure you're at the home page, and you'll know you're at the home page because it will say our mission, and there will be my contact information, and there's my email. And if you're not on my email list, please reach out to me. I want to add you. This is a good way to stay connected and know what's going on in the state. But in any case, if you scroll down here, we have this announcement here about the opportunity grants. That's what these are called. They're opportunity grants. So it's an opportunity for you to get some money to help your program. And today we're just going to talk about the grant itself, just go through the process, try to make it super easy, answer any questions that you have, and then give you some examples of some successful submissions from grants from last year, because that might help further inspire you. So there's 2 grants that are available, I should say. The first is called the Cross Curriculum Innovation Grant. This is a grant where we're encouraging, you could also apply for, by the way. So you could actually apply for both of these grants if you're a rural teacher. The Cross Curriculum Innovation Grant is a grant for programs that try to connect world language with other parts of the curriculum. So maybe you connect with the art teacher and you do something together, or you're connecting, or you're doing some art in your world language classroom of some kind. Or connecting with STEM or science, or maybe it's agriculture. It could be anything, but the whole idea is that grant is to encourage teachers to connect world language with another part of their curriculum. Doesn't mean that you have to you can take, in world language, I know this myself from over 2 decades as a world language teacher. I did a lot of things in my classroom from other subject areas. I definitely taught history when I talked about the country and things like that, or we would do art projects, whether were learning new vocabulary, maybe we incorporated art in that. And we could also do science and STEM or research activities and I know this happens, for example, in dual language immersion when they do science activities in kindergarten through 5th grade, and they're focusing on the life cycle or the phases of the moon or anything like that, which can be kind of related to STEM. So that's the Cross Curriculum Innovation Grant, and it operates in the same way that the partner grant does. So even though I'm going to focus on the partner grant today, you can see that the CCI grant here, but it's the same sort of setup. The only thing is that this Cross Curriculum Innovation Grant is, like I said, something where you're proposing you need some money to do something that incorporates another part of the curriculum in your instruction. So with the partner grant, I'm just going to click on what we call the request for proposals, and I'm going to open it up, and it's right here on the home page. It's a PDF that we published, and it's going to open up, and my computer's maybe also ready for a little vacation, so it might be slow, but here we go. So it was set out, it was released on December 6th. The deadline to apply is January 12th, and I really want to emphasize that. So just put a little note on your calendars that you need to have it submitted by January 12th. And what will happen after that, just so you know, will be that all the applications, all the submissions that are deemed to be relevant, or in other words, there's not any piece of it missing, or it's complete, it's a complete request. All of those will go through a process where they'll be reviewed and scored. And then those proposals with the higher scores, if in the event that there's a lot of competition, will receive the funding. I will say, however, with the partner grant in particular, that this was not the case last year, and I don't anticipate it to be the case this year. And it may be that if I go to my administrators and say, hey, we had a partner grant bucket of money for $40,000, and we had so many that I hope I am able to go to my supervisor and say, hey, look, I had a record number of rural systems apply. I think that the chances are likely they would extend the funding to cover that. So I'm not going to say it's free money, but it's pretty close to free money for you. So I really, really, really want to encourage you to apply. So, and you can see that the maximum amount per grant is $2,000. So, and you can apply for this over multiple years. So you could apply for $2,000 this year and then another $2,000 next year. In order to determine, people asking additionally, we thought about this too, is what is determined as rural. So the first question is, does my system qualify? Can I apply for this rural grant? And to help you with that, if you'll click on this little link here in the actual call for proposals, it should take you to, let me click on it, let's go there. It'll take you to our Office of Rural Education, which is a new office that superintendent opened about a year ago now. But there's a cool little map here that's interactive. And any of these counties in green here are considered rural. And if you live or work in any of these green counties, you can apply for these grants. So I definitely want to encourage you to do so. So that's first off is, oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. On that map again, I know we have some green rural districts that also have little charter systems in there. Are those going to qualify as well?
The little charter, if your charter system is located in a rural district, I think it would.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So any of these little red dots where there's charters, I think they would apply to, yes.
Perfect.
So I believe that, Furlough Charter School received one last year, and they are in Sumter County, even though they're a charter school. So good question. But yes, so if you are in those, you can apply. So what do we do then? So what we do is, if you come down here in the grant, you can see this link to the partner grant submission link. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to a form. It's a Microsoft Office form. And it's really the form that it's the form which you make your official request. And it's pretty straightforward. I think altogether there are 19 different little questions here, but we'll just roll through them here. The first few are really just basic things. So your official school name, school address, school phone number, the district, the superintendent's name, the superintendent's contact email. That should be available to you. You should be able to fill that in. Your name, if you're applying, and your email, and then a number that you can be reached at. And then if there are other teachers involved in the grant, you could include them here. You would include your building principal, their name, their email address, and then a contact number, a phone number for them. And if there's additional one that needs to be there, the thing that you might want to find out from at that level is this information here. So and the reason I'll tell you the reason why that's there is because when we did this first round of grants, sometimes it was hard to find if you're a rural district. Well, first of all, you guys know there's not ever been a grant for world language programs in the rural district. So what we found in our first process was that there was a need to make sure that we had some contact at the district level with someone who would be able to help us with the grant. Because when you get awarded the grant, the money has to flow into your system from the state level. So whoever you just need to identify, and this is really a question for your principal or maybe even the district contact person, is who is the person that handles state grants for your district. These are they're federal funds that have come down to the state to disperse. So someone in your system is handling things like that. There's a platform called ConApp. It's a platform used by districts in the state to track financial information, to track the awarding of grants and things like this. So someone at your district has that access, and that's who we really want the information here, because once you award the grant, we want to, of course, give you that wonderful news, but we also want to communicate it with your district, because someone at the district level is going to have to go into the ConApp and put the budget in for us to approve so the money can go to you. So this is just a way of, so that contact information is there on the financial side so that we can make sure that if the grant funds are awarded to you, the money flows to you. And then of course there's the amount requested. It can exceed, in this case, $2,000. And we're going to talk about these, and I'm going to go to the actual, I'm going to go to our PowerPoint that Shannon created to kind of explain a little bit about that. But before I do that, I want to go back up here, and I wanted you to see here, it says there is a budget template and an application signatures document. So these two documents you have to download from this link. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to a Word, an Office 365 folder where both of these grant things are there. And you just simply have to click on those and you can download them. And then let's take a look at them ourselves. So if we go into the actual budget document, this is just part of your application. So in addition to filling out that form that we've been looking at, you're going to fill out this budget. So here you're just going to list the items that you would like to purchase. Now, I know we want you to be as specific as possible in your application. So really think about what it is you need. There might be times when you're not really sure exactly what the specific thing is, but you might say, I need a little bit more time, but this is what I think I'm going to need. So you can put these in here. Sometimes these budgets can change a little bit, but not in like the subheadings, but not in the details can change. So for example, you might say I'm budgeting $500 for resources for books to help in my classroom. So you can list those specifically if you know, But if you don't know specifically, you can give us examples of the types of books that you're looking at and make that last final decision when the money comes to you. So I just want you to know that when you're working on your budget, try to be as specific as you can be about both the price and the amount and the company. And this right here is basically to help us begin that process together. So so you want to fill that out. And there's a budget narrative here, talks about how you're going to use these funds. So you're going to have a list of resources, and you're going to have a little probably a little paragraph or so that explains in general. It doesn't have to be long, but just in general what the purpose is of the funds, and some specifics on what you're going to order, what those approximately cost, and examples of those. So I hope that is fairly straightforward. Every grant is going to need a budget with it. And again, if your budget's not nailed in stone or nailed, it's not written in stone, that's okay. But we want it to have a good idea. And this is actually part of your application. So it will be graded by those who are reviewing the application. So when they review the application, of course, all these first things I mentioned, all of these things are the details, but really your application is going to be graded or measured by these two answers here and the budget document that I was just showing you. Okay. So the other item there is, let me close a few things here. Hold on just one second. All right, I'm going to reshare. Sorry, sometimes when I share my screen, it blocks my view of things. So it gets a little, all right, here we go. So that was our budget item here. Now the school application signature page is just something that it's again, just a little page that you sign off. You just fill in this information and have your school principal sign. So it's kind of just it's really there to make sure your principal knows that you're applying for the grant, number one. So someone at the administrative level of the school itself knows that you've applied for it. And it also gives us more contact information. Part of that is you see this federal program contact information. That's really just like in our thing here where I asked for your federal program contact information. So it's just a kind of I guess I would say a review of that. So this form is really easy. Once you know this federal program contact for your district, you can write them in. You and your principal would sign and date it, and you'd submit that as a PDF to me via email. So you could just email me the PDF. The same with the budget document. You can just sign that budget document and get it to me. All right, so now I'm going to go to this wonderful PowerPoint that Shannon prepared and kind of talk about some examples. Let's share this slide here. Hang on. Yeah, well, you can see it, but let's view the slideshow. Okay. All right. So as I said, this is the thing, the actual application, again, January 12th, to fill that in. Here's the link again where you'll download the grant budget template and the application signature page. So you'll do all that. You'll email those to me and I will put them with your grant. And then, so in this number 18 on that form, this is where you describe the program basics. And I just wanted to give you some examples of how this looks. So the big things here are to just give us an overview of what it is you're planning to do, why you need these funds, what are the courses that will be impacted by the funds, how many students approximately, and just give us a little background. And this is a submission from a rural teacher last year that was pretty good. I mean, it gave us the course codes for Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, could be French 1, French 2, but these course codes, if you have a question about what's the course code for a particular course, whether it's French, upper level 3, I'll show you here at the end of our thing where you can find that information, but you can always email me and I can give you this information. But you see, they just gave a little background, and I've actually gone through here and removed some identifying information. But basically, they just talk about where their school is located, how many students they have, how many classes, what they receive in support, which typically in the rural system is not a lot of support for world language teachers. Typically, when they do get support, it's for consumables or things like that, maybe some office supplies. So this was an example of what one person wrote here. So this is an example. So you're basically just justifying, giving an overview of your school and its needs, the courses that will be impacted by it, and you're giving us an idea of how many students would be impacted by this. I think always when the graders grade these applications, they're always looking for the impact, and they're always looking at the sustainability of it. Is it going to be, is it something, are these some of those resources? And when you write your resource list, you can spend a certain amount of that money on consumables, but you can also spend that money on things that will live longer, like books or technology that you'll be using. Some people have asked for subscriptions to tech services, whether it's a website or resources that they found that they want to use, but there's a subscription for it. Software, things like that. All of these things are things that this can purchase. If you have a need for an iPad for something, or you're thinking you want to do, so technology is a part of that. So the only thing that really is not really good for this are things that, so for example, like field trips, bus drivers, substitute pay, professional development, travel, I think is not. This is more like equipment and resources grants. So think about it from that perspective. It can supply, for example, subscriptions, like, for example, if you need or you want to join FLAG, or you want to go to a conference and you want to pay the registration dues for that conference, something like that could happen. But really, I really want to stress that if you get awarded these funds, they really need to be spent and dispersed by September of 2023. So this application will close in January. Probably about a month later or less, you'll know who received the awards. The announcement will be made once it's all done together. So it's not only world language, but art, and science, and history. When we all go through this process, vetting those submissions, and then when everybody's done, there's a state board meeting at which these are approved, and then it's announced. And when that money is announced, shortly thereafter, it flows to your system. So our hope is that it would get to your system by, I would say, March or April, and you'd be able to spend this before you leave for the summer and get all these materials that you want in over the summer, be ready for you to use in the fall. So this is an example.
Thank you for that example, by the way. I drafted something and it doesn't have any of those details. So thank you for that example.
Sure. No, definitely, I think you don't want to overcomplicate things, but I think you just really want to make your case. Why do you need a grant? The key things for that number 18 are, courses impacted, overview of your school, why you need it, justification, and then number of students who would be impacted. I think those are the key points. And if you focus on those three, that's a well-written one. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but you have to think about it from the standpoint of the reader who's grading these. They're reading these, so you're trying to persuade them of the need, I guess, really justify what it is you really need. But I find that in the rural community, especially world language teachers, those justifications are easy. They've always been there. It's just sometimes I think one of the obstacles to having more rural teachers apply is just that, it's a grant and I've never done that before. And it's a little bit intimidating. So I don't want you to be intimidated. If you're watching this video later, I want you to reach out to me. If you have any questions, I'll repeat my email, show you that again. But at any time during the process, you can reach out to me and I can give you advice. I can't write it for you, but I can definitely point you in the right direction if you're going, if you feel like you need a little, hey, Patrick, is this does this sound good to you, or what are your suggestions? And I can definitely offer those. Okay. For this activity description, this is where you're actually going to go into a little bit more detail in some ways. Remember, the previous question is just sort of asking for a justification and overview of your environment, where you're at. But this one, you're going to tell us a little bit more about how this funding is going to be used in connection with your courses. So, and I'm going to show you some good examples here. I got a couple of good examples I can show you. This is one we received from a school, rural district, and they had a very good sort of, they almost, it was really good. So they had this idea to have their students do a podcast in Spanish. That was this project that they were going to do. And they connected it with the modern language standards. That's something you want to do here. So at this point, you want to just connect it. And our standards in Georgia, of course, are pretty general. So it's pretty easy to connect it with standards that we have. So if you don't know where those standards are, we'll talk about that too. You can reach out to me. You definitely want to tie it with them. And then, you know, they gave a lot of detail as to how they're going to work this out with their students. So they're going to publish these books and these podcasts that would be recorded using the equipment and resources connected in the grant. So they had a list of things that they wanted to do. The only thing I would say here that they needed to really add is probably, and this would have been in the budget piece probably, where they'd have gone specifically into what are those things I need. But this is a good description of the activity that the students would be doing using the grant funding. So in my last, if I was writing this grant, indeed with this grant, they provided a budget that was also matching to this explanation. I'm not saying your explanation has to be this long, but it should be, it could be something more like, let's see. Yeah, for this example, here's another example that came, and it's, and I've kind of, so they've kind of, in this example, they narrowed it down. They divided up the grant into multiple categories. So one part of the money was going to be used for consumables. One part of the money was going to be used for readers. And one part of the fund was going to be used for teacher curriculum resources, whether it be books that would help them in their teaching. So it can be things that you've wanted to get that or that you're interested in. Could be a teacher tips, I don't know, could be a lot of different things, lesson plans, anything like this. And you can divide up your grant in multiple categories. So it's, I mean, sometimes it's driven by a project, but sometimes because they've never had a grant before, they think, oh, well, I mean, I might use this amount for equipment, this amount for consumables, and this amount for something that would be helpful for me. So you can divide up your grant in several subcategories, depending on what you need. So that's really good too. Yeah, and then like I said, there's the budget narrative, and you're good to go. So yeah, and here's another example of another thing where they're listing like for the budget what it is they use, right? So in their budget, they've actually got the name of the provider, the amount they suspect, a little description about it. This was last year. This year we want it to be in this sort of format, so it's a lot simpler. But last year, you know, they would simply have taken this and put this in that budget format. So, but you can see how they're breaking it down by costs approximately. Of course, shipping and handling and all that has to be factored in too, but you don't have to give me again exact amounts, but buckets of what you're going to use in what areas. And the details of it can be worked out at the district level when you, because you'll get the funds and then you'll know you only have 2,000 max. So whatever you can use, but I'm not going to be counting every book. You know, I'm not going to come after you to check, did you get all 35? But I want, so once the funds flow to you and you spend the funds, and then the only other thing that will be required is at the end of it, you would provide a little short summary of how the funds were spent and how it impacted your classroom. So it's not going to be anything too burdensome as far as a report. We simply want a response from you as to, hey, yes, we did use the funds. These are the courses that impact us, what we did, in a general narrative sense. So really easy, a paragraph. But I think that it will be really great to give more rural teachers these funds. Like I said, they're sitting there and they'll be there for next year too, I fully suspect. So and my goal is, of course, to increase the amount of rural systems that are applying for it. So I do encourage you to help me spread the word about that. Like I said, right now, I think you saw that we had budgeted 30,000. And 2,000 a shot, that tells you that, okay, there's 15 that we could build. But honestly, if I had 35 applications and went to my supervisor and said, hey, I have 35 applications and all of them are valid, I think that they would more than likely expand that funding to be able to try to meet those needs, because that is the goal, after all, is to provide these funds to meet the needs of rural teachers in your areas. All right, so with that, let me close out there and go back to our grant here. So I'm going to go back to the home page and just share with you a few things here as tips. So again, if you need to reach me at any time regarding the grant process and any questions you have about anything, you can reach me at my email. I'm very responsive, and Shannon and I will tell you that, because she emails me, I would say, almost every week. We probably communicate, right, Shannon? So you can just email me at pwallace@doe.k12.ga.us, and I'll respond to those requests. And again, I'm here to help you. So I don't want any obstacles in your way. The fact that you're applying as a rural teacher is already, 80% of the way there. All we have to do is get it actually written down, the budget submitted, and make sure we get your district knows that you're doing it and get the right contact people who are aware of it. And then boom, we're good to go. And then this will be helpful for you. The only thing is, if you're looking for, the only thing I can think otherwise that you might need is if you need the course codes. Sorry, my dog is also on this Zoom. If you need the course codes for the courses, you can of course email me and I can get out. Just was going to show you that if you go to offices and divisions up here and you click on curriculum instruction, if you click on that and you come to the homepage of my supervisor, who is Dr. Aldridge, and if you scroll down, they have a list here. See, it's right here. It's under official list of state funded courses. It's the first link. And if you click on that, it'll open up a PDF that has the course codes for all the courses in world languages that are taught in the state of Georgia. So remember when I was showing you the application where you have to write in what courses this is going to apply to. So you're looking for the Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 course code. You can find them here. And actually this is just a listing of all the subjects that the state of Georgia funds. And if you didn't know where it is, you now know. But you can scroll down to about page 60. See how it's labeled at the end of the page. It'll say the number. So if you scroll down to about page 60, so it's about halfway down. Let's go there. Yeah, so we're still in art here.
For the districts that use Infinite Campus, I know my district does. Most of them do. I think some of the metro districts use other platforms, but if you are on your roster in Infinite Campus, it will say, like mine says, French 1 dash and then the course number. So I just pull them from there. And if you want to check against this to confirm that yours qualifies, but that's, to me as a teacher, that's been the easiest place for me to find our course codes is through Infinite Campus.
We use Infinite Campus too.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll do that, and I'll check against this list too to make sure that it's.
And you can email me if you need to confirm. But yeah, most people will probably be using, I would think, Spanish 1, which is what you have here, this one right here. Or they might be using Spanish 2, or they might be using Spanish 3, maybe French 1, French 2. In those rural districts that we talked about, mostly those are the languages that are going to be taught. There might be a few odd, I want to say odd, but really they're wonderful, but some more less commonly taught languages in some of the rural districts. But most of our rural districts, it's Spanish and French mostly. All right.
That actually leads me to a question that I was, hopefully you can clarify. So for my school, there's one French teacher and two Spanish teachers. So do each of us get $2,000
It's
or?
a great question. Thanks for asking, Shannon. You can. So here's the thing. So if there are multiple Spanish teachers at your school, then one grant for the Spanish teachers. If there are two languages, then you could get two different grants, one for French, one for Spanish. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You could also, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's really what it's like now. If you, yeah, that's really what it is, because we had this question last year too, and the answer is that for each language, one grant can be written. Okay, so if there are Spanish and French in a rural district, you can have it for each of those.
So there are some districts that have like 3 or 4 Spanish teachers. When
That's
I
right.
was doing my outreach, I was very shocked to see 3 and 4 Spanish teachers. So they would need to share, like do a joint project, basically.
Right, yes,
Okay.
or use something that could be used across the levels. Or they might say, well, I'm gonna apply with Spanish 1 and we'll do Spanish 2 next year, or, however they want to do it, that's fine. I think,
Perfect.
but that cross curriculum innovation grant is really also another grant that you could apply for as well. So, I mean, if you had several Spanish teachers, maybe one could apply for the partner grant and one could apply for the cross curriculum innovation grant. So you could really get both, just to do. So there is no limit on those. Like you can, I guess I'm saying if there's 3 or 4 Spanish teachers, you could apply for both,
Okay.
for the Spanish teachers and then use it that way. So I think that would be great. And I would love to see more rural districts represented. So definitely, I think the hardest part, as you know, Shannon, has been probably reaching out to them and just getting rural teachers to understand that there is a network and, you want them to get involved and you want them to make aware, which is the whole reason behind Starlight. So I think that's really great work, and I've commended you before on starting.
Thank
So,
you. This grant spurred me into some action, and I went through. I think I got about 120 new emails from what I did. I didn't research over the summer. I was lazy this summer and didn't update my database. But now I was like, oh gosh, we have all these districts, and I know which ones.
yeah,
So-
you've been doing some DOE work, because actually I also went to their websites, and actually wrote if I could find an email. And you believe it or not, sometimes it's pretty hard to find an email for a Spanish teacher in a rural district. So
It is. I made several more. I think I made more phone calls than I found online. And they were
Right.
all like, why is this crazy woman calling asking for emails? I got a couple, I could hear raised eyebrows, but we got them. So
Well, I mean, hopefully that translates into some people who get real service and help because of that. So that will be awesome.
I hope so. All right. Well, I think I'm out of questions. Abby, since you're here with us, do you have any questions while we're talking about this? And we can get it on recording in case anybody else has questions.
You said that the money had to be spent by September 2023.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think, we definitely want the turnaround to be fast. So
Okay.
in other
That's
words,
fine. I was just,
we want to get the money to you before you break for summer so you can make the order, and over the summer, the items come in.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like if I'm doing a subscription, I want it to start like at the beginning of the school year.
You could
And not-
start it in fall. You could
Yeah.
start it in
Make
like
it start in
August.
August. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's perfectly fine.
That was my only question. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks
And
for joining.
I'll throw this out there because this was the idea. We were talking before we started, I was like, I don't even know what I need. I'm so used to just doing with what I have. And I thought the thing that I don't have is access to a color printer and a ton of laminating access. So I bought a bunch of those chat mats from Amy Leonard. But they're sitting in my desk. Like I have one set of them because I don't have enough for every kid. And I have a bunch of like reading, like those amazing infographics. So that's sort of where I'm going to go, is I'm going to submit one for printing in color on cardstock, laminating, an organizer to keep everything. So I'm going to sort of use my local RISA as my printing agency. So I'm hoping that's going to not be a problem as far as switching money around. But if you need an idea, that's something I'm coming up with, was just printing.
And that's a good idea. Color copies, those are, anything like that, lamination, anything like that you'd have to spend your own funds for. This is money that can cover that. So absolutely good example.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead because I think it's getting about dinner time. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Patrick, for all your information. Wonderful as always. And I will process this and send it out to everybody hopefully tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you, Shannon, for your outreach. and
Yeah,
good
of
to
course.
see you
Good
at
night,
the meeting.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good to